Today's video is called Stop Trying to Lose Weight, the Truth About Ozempic and Other Drugs. The reason that I'm calling it that is not only because I thought that might be the most clickbaity title that could also convey my meaning, but I've come to realize that the idea of trying to lose weight and the idea of dieting are maybe the biggest problem that people are having when it comes to how to have a healthy life and how to lose the fat that you want to lose, because most of us, when we say we want to lose weight, what we really mean is that we would like to lose fat. Through all of my journeys, I have realized that trying to lose weight is the wrong mentality. Some of you are really fat and need to lose weight, sure. Most of us have bodies that we would like to change in various ways, and often that includes wanting to lose fat. But when you think of it as trying to lose weight, there are so many pitfalls that entails that it is just not a good idea to think of it that way. Think about weighing yourself and thinking of it as trying to lose weight is that when you lose weight, you are always also going to be losing muscle, or it's very, very hard to gain muscle while losing fat completely. So when you're trying to lose weight, when you want that number to go lower on the scale, some of that is going to be loss of muscle, whether you're taking Ozempic at all or others. And for the rest of this episode, I am just going to say, I guess I can say semaglutide. Well, then there's some of them are different and have semaglutide. So we're just going to say Ozempic. Ozempic is the synecdoche of all of these. It's like when we say Band-Aid, but we mean adhesive bandage. I'm going to call it Ozempic. I hope that's okay with everyone in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm not big enough for them to care yet, so. But please, while we mention it, please help me to get big enough that I have to care about stuff like that. It is difficult to be a nuanced person who looks at things from all kinds of different angles, and so if you appreciate what I'm doing, I've done a fair amount of research for this, not only in the last few days, but also throughout my whole life, to bring you everything that I know, well, a comprehensive, succinct version of everything that I know. If you like what I'm about to do, if you like what I've done before, please hit the subscribe button first and foremost. That's the most important thing. If you can give me a like, a nice little comment, maybe some muscles. Look at this. I'm getting there, but I'll get to my muscle journey in a bit. Please share this with a friend, especially if your friend is thinking about taking Ozempic or is always dieting, someone like that. Everything like that really helps me. So again, if you are a fat piece of shit, I am still going to encourage you to work on that. We're gonna change our bodies. We're gonna become healthy as we can be, as healthy as we wanna be. I want you to get healthy, but I don't want you to think of it as trying to lose weight. The best mentality to have is trying to think of it as wanting to be strong, wanting to be fit, wanting to be healthy, wanting to be agile, wanting to be able to live a long life, doing all of the things that you might want to do, which could be playing sports, carrying groceries to the car, picking up your grandkids, being able to climb on the counter to get something tall so you don't have to go and find that little stool, getting out of the pool. There's all kinds of things. You might want to run marathons when you're 99. Oh, you might want to be hot too. I don't think there's anything wrong with being hot. I've always wanted to be hot. I've always worked really hard at being hot, and sometimes with better results than others. And so I've gone through a whole journey. I was a fat kid. I guess to give a little bit of fat kid bona fides. And I'm not going to claim that I've never been 400 pounds and dealt with that sort of thing. I think I have experiences that could be useful, though. When I was a kid in elementary school, I was born in 1986. Obesity wasn't then what it is now. Childhood obesity in particular was not nearly as bad. But, still, I was larger than, it seemed like, almost everybody else in school, and especially all the other females. I remember in third grade, they were weighing us all, and this time they had us all in the same room, and when they would weigh us, they would yell out our weight. It was like one woman was weighing us and the other woman was writing it down. I don't know why that needed to be a two-person thing. Maybe teachers union stuff. I don't know, creating jobs. No, but there were two people, so one person was weighing us and the other person was writing it down, so they would yell across the room, and all the other girls in third grade were like, 68 to 74 pounds, and I was like 81 or 83, enough where I was embarrassed by it. And throughout my childhood, you know, I started, I don't know what age it was, maybe that was the age, maybe it was a little bit before then, that I started feeling like, hey, I have a stomach that it doesn't seem like the other girls have. And maybe some of the other girls did have it, and you only compare yourself to the skinniest ones. I don't know, but I was definitely always insecure when we would change in middle school for gym. I felt shame around my body, and some of that was probably gender stuff getting in there too, but I also always hated my body. I always have put weight in my stomach. Like with most things in our culture, we have this insane sort of culture war thing of either or, where should we fat shame or should we have fat positivity? No, we shouldn't do either of those things. Because if you tell people, hey, you're a fat piece of shit and you're ugly, that's not going to help most people to make the positive changes that they need to make. And also, again, it's very hard because most people don't even know how to make those positive changes. In our culture, we are beset by influences that want us to be addicted to cheap sources of dopamine. Also, people are busy, people are poor, or whatever. So it's not, I don't think it's healthy to fat shame. Although it worked for Richard Simmons, right? Famously, someone put a note on his car, was like, hey, you're getting really fat or something, and then he started dancing until he lost weight. Anyway, there's certain ways that you can, there's nice ways that we can say to a friend something, but most people know if they're fat. I don't really know. I think it's really stupid. Like sometimes I'll hear famous people kind of be like, yeah, people need shame. We don't have enough shame anymore.
Do some good, call someone fat today. It works. Don't believe these bullshit studies that come out.
And I just don't think that's the way to think about it. But what we should have is an honest discussion about your health, because this fat acceptance thing, where there are literally people who are hundreds of pounds who are going, fat is beautiful and fat is great, there's nothing wrong with this. It's like, no, that's not true.
Just a reminder that I am very fat and very sexy, and I am 100% glorifying obesity, and there's nothing you can do. Just a reminder that I am very fat and very sexy, and I am 100% glorifying obesity, and there's nothing you can do about it.
You're gonna die young. These mukbang people are dying all the time now. You're limited in your mobility. You're gonna have to pay for 2 seats on the airplane. Things gonna be uncomfortable and awkward for you. You can't even maneuver around a room without plotting it out because you don't want your stomach to be hitting people and chairs everywhere you go, and you're putting so much strain on your body and your heart.
So what you do is you take a little bit of toilet paper. It has like grooves in it. So you stick it in the groove, and then you wrap it around, and then you stick it in the groove, and then you reach however you want to reach, and you wipe your ass. And then this is like spring loaded, so if you spring and
with you're that fat. No, I mean, people, unless, some people do have like a fetish for fat people or for being fat or something. And it takes all kinds, and so it's fun to have a sprinkle of all kinds of stuff happening. But for most of us, we want to be in shape. We want to be healthy. We probably want to look hot, but there's lots of different ways to look hot. And there's lots of different body shapes and things. Can't remember what ectomorphic or isomorphic or any of that stuff is. But we all have different, some people really are big boned, or we have different kind of natural body shapes. And if you look in the animal kingdom and you look at elephants or something, like some are slenderer than others, they're all regulated. If there are animals out in the wild, none of them are eating too many donuts. So unless they're like living near humans and then sneaking in and eating our. But if you're out in the wild, you can see there's a variety of different bodies that are all healthy. So it's not that you can be healthy at any size, but there are many sizes at which you can be healthy depending on your body. Everything is so much more nuanced than we give it credit for. So again, we don't need to fat shame people, but we don't need to be fat positive. There's fat acceptance, I guess, you should accept whatever is, and then go from there. Because you need to accept, hey, like, this is how much I weigh right now, or again, not how much, you need to accept this is what my body looks like and feels like right now. This is what my capabilities are right now. But then accepting that doesn't mean you don't change it. You know, then you go, okay, what I want to be able to do is to go to the bouldering gym and be able to climb the most difficult ones. In order to get there, I'm gonna have to build muscle. I'm probably gonna have to lose some fat so that I'm lighter and so that my center is not so heavy. And I'm gonna need to be more flexible and stuff. So how can I get there? And you know, you want to make those adjustments. Maybe you just want to look hotter, and I totally get that. I want you to look hotter too. I like it when everyone looks hot. Just aesthetically, I enjoy that. I want me to look hot. I want my friends to look hot. I want almost everyone to look hot, because if everyone looks hot, then it makes the rest of us look less hot by comparison. And it's fun to feel better than ugly people. You get it. You know, I want us to be a healthy nation. America has a lot of issues right now. It's very costly for all of us collectively to be so unhealthy, to be, all kinds of different kind of dishealth, whether you're super fat or not. It's really bad for our economy, for us all to be sickly, and for our healthcare to cost a lot. And we want to be a healthy nation who is winning Olympic golds and who is able to, to build roads and things, whatever, all the things we want to do, and to pick up our grandchildren. So fat shaming, it's like, I don't even know what people are actually suggesting that we do. We just go, fat, if you're fat, hey, you're ugly. Like, is that really what anybody thinks that we should do? I don't think so. But this polar opposite idea of these people who are like, oh, Jabba the Hutt, sitting there going, oh, the doctor told me I should lose weight and that's fat phobic. That's insane too. Like, we stop lying, okay? That is not healthy. It's not fun. No, and again, unless that's your fetish.
Okay, this is the fatness spectrum. A small fat is a size 18 and lower, 1X or 2X. I'm a 4X, 5X. I'm a size 26.
I go wear my Louis Vuitton, but even with nothing on, that I made you.
A few people can do that, but for most of us, we're gonna want to not be in a circus. We're gonna want to be able to play sports, to go on hikes, to go, to run around and play with your kids, and to be able to travel. It's really hard. If you want to travel the world, then if you're not able to walk a lot, if you get really tired, if you roll your ankle, if you're putting strain on your knees just from walking, again, if you have to pay extra seats and stuff, if you're going to be judged by everyone else in the rest of the world for being 400 pounds, that's not fun. So you want to have freedom. Don't you just have freedom? You probably want to be hot, but you also want to have freedom. You want to have mobility. You want to have the ability to get around the world easily, and to be able to live a long life where you have the ability to take care of yourself for as long as possible. So it saves you a lot of money when you don't have to pay all this extra stuff for healthcare. And that matters a lot to me as a comedian who is not yet rich and famous. This is not wood. Hopefully I will be. But I need my healthcare costs to be low. So it's a lot cheaper to eat right and exercise than it is to be on a bunch of pharmaceuticals, to be on a bunch of whatever the medical stuff is going to be if and when, as you get older and unhealthier, you have to depend on Western medicine to keep you propped up. I'm trying to avoid that. I don't want to have a heart attack. I don't want to have a stroke. Any of these things can happen, and there's no guarantee, but the healthier you are, the better your life is going to be in just about every way. So let's do that. Let's talk about not trying to lose weight, because this is what I'm going to give you to do. I don't want you to try to lose weight. You're not going to do that anymore. But you are going to become healthy and hot. I think before I talk about Ozempic, I want to start with some general advice about a health journey. It's so much harder to try to take things away or to restrict ourselves than to add positive habits. And a lot of times when we restrict ourselves, then there's like things that happen in human brains that lead us to want to binge on those things later. And so it's the psychology of dieting that leads to gaining all that weight back once we're off the diet. I never want you to think about dieting ever again. I want you to think of the two words instead of dieting: adding and adjusting. Things that you can add. This is just add these things to your life, and don't worry about how many Oreos you eat, or if you're gonna get burgers, or if you need to be vegan or paleo or keto. I don't want you to do any of that stuff unless your doctor who you trust tells you you need to do that stuff ASAP. But if you're not in a position like that, then we're gonna think about adding stuff, okay? The first thing you wanna add is water. As much water as possible. Now, ideally, you can be getting good sources of water, because a lot of the water that we drink, whether it's coming from the tap or if you get a bottle that says purified on it, is stripped of all these minerals and things that are supposed to be in water. So if you can get really good kinds of filters, there's reverse osmosis ones. My girlfriend has this one called Zero Water that's like, if you can't have reverse osmosis in your kitchen, then you can do that. You can try to buy yourself really nice, high quality water. That would be the ideal, but if not, it's okay. You might need to have more fruits, minerals, hydration packs or something like that in your life, but drink lots of water. The more water you drink, the better everything in your body works, and your mind. And your mind, body are a system anyway, so we can't really ever separate those two. The more water you drink, also the fuller you're going to feel, so that you won't be as tempted to be kind of stuffing yourself with other things. And the same is true because you're going to add vegetables. I want you to add water and vegetables first and foremost. You only do two things, and you can do this. I love small changes. I love going, you know what? Okay, I'm going to take whatever my baseline is of how I eat or what I would eat, and just go, today I'm going to make sure to start the morning with a glass of water. And then that's it. Maybe the next day you go, I'm going to make sure that I not only start the morning with a glass of water, but I also have an extra glass of water right after I have my coffee or tea, if you do that. The next day, whatever works for you, but you want to make sure that you are committing to a particular goal, like the day before, think, I'm going to do this tomorrow, and then do it. So make sure it's something sustainable. Don't say, all right, from now on, I'm going to drink whatever, 8 cups of water a day or 12 cups of water a day. If that's going to be too hard for you, then don't do it. But if you can get yourself one of those gallon jugs or half-gallon jugs of water and fill it up and make sure, hey, I'm drinking this twice, I would say ideally, it depends on, is it the summer, do you go outside a lot? You may need more than that, but make sure you are working to the place where you get at least 8 cups of water a day, probably somewhat more than that. Then start adding vegetables. Start going, okay, you know what I would have had today is, I often have a donut for breakfast, and then I have a banana for a snack, and then at lunch I get a burger and fries, and then for dinner I have pizza. If that's what you eat, yeah, that sucks, but we don't need to change that all right away. We can't, because you're addicted. You're addicted to all of that stuff. So instead of beating yourself up and going, wow, I'm a piece of shit, and I shouldn't be eating any of this stuff, I'm gonna only eat granola and salads tomorrow. Don't do that. Just go, okay, tomorrow morning, still gonna have my donut, still gonna have my banana, and then at lunch, along with my burger and fries, I'm also going to make sure to have a serving of broccoli, or I'm also going to make sure to have some salad. Figure out a vegetable you like. We'll start there. Just whatever vegetables you like. You might need to cook it the day before, which is a great thing to do. It's so much easier to take the time of the day when you have willpower, when you have some time, and go, let me prep for tomorrow to make it easier. Because if I run out of time, if it's too hard, I'm just gonna go through the drive-through. But instead, let me say, and it may be that you need to meal prep, and one night you make vegetables for the next few days. And you maybe need to do it twice a week, where you make 4 servings of vegetables so that you can bring it with you. And it may be that you do that for a week, and then it's the next week that you start the next little habit. But start adding vegetables in. So what will naturally happen over time is that your body starts craving more of the healthy things that you're giving it and starts going, well, I guess I actually am full, I don't need to finish my fries. Or maybe you won't even notice it, but maybe you'll be dipping your fries in less ranch or ketchup because you are actually more satisfied. Vegetables are so good because not only are they a nutrient dense source of food, but they also have fiber, usually a little bit of protein as well. And so fiber really slows the absorption of the sugars that you're taking in and helps you to digest things slower. So I'm never going to be telling you, like, I don't want you to be ever relying on your mind and your willpower to get you to all these places. You're going to do these things that get your body to want differently. And that's what I didn't realize, and I'll take a little moment here to explain that. I was a chronic dieter for my whole life. I was a fat kid. I had a lot of shame around it. I've never been, 400 pounds, but at my highest, and I'm 5'8", for context, at my highest weight, I was pushing 190. And so I've gone, there were years of me going up and down the weight thing. And the thing that really healed me from being on that cycle was I started dating a woman who helped me with this. She was an amazing cook. And instead of me always being dieting and being like, here's my on diet days and then my cheat days, and I gotta count calories and I gotta do this, I gotta eat I can't eat regular things, I have to eat the diet versions because I know that I want to eat. It was like, you have to drink Diet Coke because I know I'm gonna want to drink 6 a day, and if I did that with regular ones, that would be bad. Well, yes, it would be bad, but you shouldn't be drinking 6 sodas a day at all. You really shouldn't even be drinking 6 sparkling waters a day. That has these other issues I hear. I don't fully understand all of that stuff, and if you're gonna drink 6 of anything, that would be better than any of the other options. But point being, you're in this mentality where you think, oh, I have to constantly be eating, so if I'm going to be constantly eating, it better be seaweed snacks, because otherwise it'll be something higher calorie. But all that stuff is because you're obsessed with food. All that thing of like wanting to constantly be eating and drinking is because your body is obsessed with food. Your body is always in these weird modes of kind of binging and dieting and going, oh, sometimes we're restricted, so we better eat all we can here, and you're always kind of obsessed. That's what dieting really is being obsessed with food. And so when I started dating my first ex-wife, who was an amazing cook, she was using real butter. She was, she would just, marinate chicken and then have like a nice couscous and some baby broccolini that she would grill, and then she would have nice marinated big chicken thighs, and we both loved dark meat and all kinds of dishes. Sometimes she even made crazy macaroni and cheese that was so, oh my God, that's the thing I miss most about her. Anyway, so when I had no idea, I did not know that this would happen, but it did happen once I stopped dieting, once I stopped having on diet days, once I stopped counting calories at all, once I stopped thinking about that, once I started just eating real food, the craziness melted away. I stopped weighing myself as well, and I told myself, even though I didn't like how my body looked then. And there's always things not to like about the way your bodies look, at least for most of us, if not all of us. Even though I didn't technically, officially I didn't like it, but I had to kind of put myself into this mindset of, I have to love myself now. And what happened with that, what helped with that, is that I went swimming with some people who were a lot larger than me, and for years I had been avoiding swimming. I had been, it's like I wanted to wear a t-shirt, or like I didn't want to show my body in front of people because it wasn't good enough. And then these people who were in way worse shape than me just took their shirts off and got into the ocean, and I was like, oh God, if I'm going to sit here and be precious about my body, which is smaller than theirs, I'm just being an asshole. I'm just being an asshole to be like, oh, you guys can't look at my gross body when their bodies are grosser than mine. And so it really helped me to go, okay, just live your life. You know what's better than people not seeing your body is swimming in the ocean. And in fact, then swimming in the ocean burns calories, etc. So that, and I stopped weighing myself because you don't want to freak out about oh my God, the number's a little higher. Maybe there's more water. Maybe you put on muscle. Muscle weighs more than fat. So if you're worrying about the numbers, you could, go all kinds of crazy places with that in your head. And then I also have this habit of buying myself goal clothes. I didn't want to spend money on clothes that weren't for the body I wanted, so I just wouldn't buy myself clothes that I could wear then and feel good then. I bought myself clothes that were too tight, thinking, okay, that'll get me to lose the last couple pounds. Well, that never worked for me, and what did work was buying clothes that were bigger and realizing, oh, like, I actually look better if I buy these clothes that fit me. Then they're not muffin topping me. So I can buy these clothes and I felt better about myself. I was buying clothes for the way my body was then. I stopped weighing myself. I realized if I'm going to get off of whatever diet that I was currently on, because this had happened before where I tried to be like, I don't want to diet anymore, I just want to be normal. And then I would weigh myself and the number would go up and I would freak out and go back to dieting. So I said, we're not going to do that. I may well gain weight for a little bit, but then I have to have faith that my body will regulate itself. And lo and behold, it did. I stopped weighing myself, I stopped dieting, I was eating real food, I was buying clothes for the body that I had, I was looking at myself in a full-length mirror and dancing, and anyway. And it was amazing because I think I stepped on a scale maybe 6 months later and I had lost 7 pounds. And I hadn't been trying to lose weight. I had just been trying to listen to my body and be healthy. And one of the things that I realized as well in these times during my 20s was that, there was always this saying that I think kind of infamously moms would say to their daughters where they were like, nothing tastes as good as being thin feels. That's gross. But what is true is that nothing tastes as good as feeling good feels. I cannot tell you the amount of times my insane, Western addicted brain would just keep eating when I was already full. And there are signals in my brain going, you're full, this food isn't even tasting as good as it used to, you're getting uncomfortable, your stomach's hurting, but it's like I had to finish my plate. It could be our mom's faults. But it was like I had to finish it. Like I couldn't, it was like I was obsessed until it was gone. I just wanted to keep eating more. And there's something too, I think, once you get to that place where you've eaten too much, you can kind of stave off the, ooh, I ate too much hangover for as long as you keep eating. Of course, the longer you keep eating, the worse that eventual hangover, necessarily will be. Same thing with drugs. And the other thing, and it's that same kind of thing, like, I don't know about you, but I have taken drugs recreationally and still do. I mean, you consider alcohol and weed and everything. These are all drugs, nicotine and caffeine, all drugs. But whichever kind of drugs that you may like, you think about it before, if you're going to go dancing, if you're going to go out with friends, if you're going to go to a work thing, you think about, okay, well, I don't want to be fucked up to do this, or I don't want to be too tired. And I was like, I wasn't really doing that as much for food. Sometimes there would be a party at my house that my roommates might be throwing, and then we would start with a dinner party, and then it was going to be a party, but I would get obsessed and want to eat too much food, and then I wouldn't want to be social. I would be tired, I would feel fat and sluggish, and by feeling fat, it's like you feel bloated and ugh. And then I wouldn't want to be social and party, and I wouldn't have room for alcohol that I wanted to use for partying. And so I finally realized, like, food, I have to think of it in the same way that I think about the responsibility of drugs, of, hey, there's certain kinds of ways you don't want to be affected or fuck yourself up. Same thing applies to food. In my 20s, that really helped me to learn how to regulate and to have a better relationship with food and my body. The biggest thing is that I stopped having fake sugars. And by fake sugars, the worst culprits I'm sure are aspartame and sucralose, but I am not a big fan of stevia as either. And even the monk fruit oftentimes can be cloyingly sweet. And I've read and heard all kinds of stuff about all of these things, and I'm not really sure what's true. I think it's very hard to figure out the science because there are a lot of companies who are incentivized to keep us believing whatever they want us to believe about these things. So do they cause cancer and strokes? I don't know. My girlfriend just read me something probably from Instagram the other day that said that some study shows that they do, I don't know, I've heard, everything, they're made out of dead animal bones or something, whatever. I've also read that something can happen when you start taking in fake sugars all the time, where it represses our metabolic rate, because normally when we take in sugars, when we take in carbohydrates, our body revs up its metabolic response and goes, oh cool, you're giving us energy, we're about to use it, right? Like, let's go. Because that's, our ancestors would have probably been active all the time, and maybe eat something so you can go chase an animal. But if you take, again, this is what I read, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it makes sense to me. When you're eating diet sugars, when you're having Diet Coke or whatever stuff with sucralose and stevia, then your body, the first few times that you have those substances, your body goes, oh wow, sure, like let's rev up. But then it kind of realizes, wait a minute, we actually didn't get calories. False alarm, everyone. We don't need to rev ourselves up. We didn't get any energy, so don't do that. So it winds up suppressing your metabolic response, such that when you do have a Snickers bar or real sugar or whatever of any sort, then that metabolic response is still muted or subdued, at least to some extent, so that it actually does make you fatter, because when you do eat treats, your body is not revving up as much. Again, these are some of the stuff I've read over time. I've read a million different dieting things over the years and listened to podcasts and read whatever. So I don't know what all is true, but I'm sharing what I have heard and what makes sense to me. And the thing that makes the most sense to me, that I'm almost positive is true, is that all of those artificial sweeteners are hundreds of times sweeter than sugar. So I believe aspartame is like 300 times sweeter than sugar, and sucralose as well is like 200 or 300 times sweeter. Stevia, I think, is 700 times sweeter. And yes, you can use less, but all these products that I look at the store, I've tried before with protein powders and things to go, okay, I'll try the one with stevia. Maybe it's so sweet, it's sickeningly sweet. If you haven't been eating those things and you eat a little bit, it'll be like, ugh. Maybe the first time you ever had a Diet Coke, it's disgusting. You had to get used to it. And even the monk fruit has started really bothering me. I think there's some products where they just use a tiny bit of monk fruit that I think are okay, and I'm not sure how much sweeter monk fruit is, but there is this kind of thing where it does feel like the idea that we can get something for nothing tends to not be exactly true very often in this life. So I would advise getting rid of the artificial sugars. And again, artificial sugars are part of that diet mentality where you go, ooh, I want to be able to drink Diet Coke all day long, and so this is okay, I get to have this stuff. Well, I think there's a lot of costs to that, whether it's any of the stuff that I mentioned, or if it's just your brain being in that mentality and that addiction mentality of like, I want to always be able to reach for the thing. Because that's how we can get, right? Like, maybe in the morning it's, I want my coffee, and then as soon as you're waiting from that coffee a little bit, then you go, okay, I need my snack. Okay, well, maybe I need my cigarette. Okay, well, now I need to get on my phone and get that dopamine. And then, okay, let me smoke a little weed and feel, we're just kind of constantly reaching for that next little source of dopamine or pleasure. And so even if none of the cancer and taste bud and metabolic suppression stuff is true, I still think that this whole, I just want to be able to always get something is a pernicious state to keep yourself in. So I really recommend getting rid of that stuff. What it did for me is, among other things, is cutting out all of the artificial sweeteners has made real food taste better. So now when I eat fruit, it tastes really sweet to me. That whole idea of fruit can be dessert didn't make sense when I was eating all kinds of hyped up sweetened stuff. But now that I have regulated myself, once I've gotten rid of all that stuff, cookies are a huge treat. And then my body, my mind-body system are so deeply satisfied from a little bit that I don't feel obsessed, like I want to eat a bunch. that way I used to always feel of like, I just want to eat as many as possible. Some of this probably also came from being the youngest of 5 in a family where my parents were very like rules based about how much we could eat and when and whatever, and so it was always like, get whatever food you can when you can. But now that I don't have fake sugars, now that I'm not dieting ever, it's very easy for me. I don't have to work at it. I just got myself to this place where I make sure to focus on, hey, okay, I want to make sure I'm eating a lot of different colors every day, lots of whole foods, and so there's just not that much room for, I don't want to have a stomach ache. And once I've already eaten a bunch of healthy foods, then if I were to eat 5 cookies, I would have a stomach ache. And I don't want to have a stomach ache, so I don't. And it doesn't take any willpower. That's the thing. I don't think I have a stronger willpower than the average person. You have to get your body to will different things, to will healthy things. You want your will to be pointed to good stuff instead of having to take your willpower and go, no, you stop wanting all of that stuff. Don't want it even though you want it. It's really hard to bootstrap the whole situation that way. You want to get to the place where your will is going, ooh, what can we eat? Ooh, there's potatoes over there. Ooh, I want to have a little tangerine. Ooh, I need some protein. I'm going to get one of my RX bars. So we've already talked about the things that we want to add to our diet and lifestyle. And when I say diet, I mean that like what you're eating. I don't mean a trying to lose weight system. So what you're going to add to your lifestyle, we've talked about that. Just to hit it over the head again, water, vegetables, protein, and and then whole foods, nutrition density. Because again, when you think about nutrition density and when you're trying to optimize for that, you just don't have that much room left over for the rest of it. And I promise you that when you add all of these things to your life, your gut will take over and it will go, oh, I want that. Oh, that was good. I want more of that. And it starts learning like, oh, that junk food actually makes me feel bad. So if you take months off of fast food and you try to eat it again, you'll be like, oh, this doesn't taste as good. It's not just that your body feels bad, it's that it doesn't taste as good. That's why alcohol starts tasting good to us, is because we like the effects that it has. You know, the first time you drink alcohol, it's like, it doesn't taste good. But over time, you learn to associate with partying and sex and fun and people, and feeling fun and hot and confident. And so it starts to taste good to you. Well, so the same thing can be true for anything else. The more that you eat healthful foods, the more your body learns to associate those healthful foods with feeling good. And when you take the junk food out of your life and get your gut reset, then you try the junk food again or the Diet Coke or anything again, and it goes, oh, actually this feels bad, so it starts tasting worse to you. You want all this stuff again to just be kind of natural. So we're gonna add the healthful things in, and then the second part, like I said, for your lifestyle changes is we adjust. You add and then you adjust. After you've added all of those good things in, water, vegetables, protein, nutrition-dense foods, sunlight, and movement, exercise, fun, do sports that you enjoy. Okay, find a sport, try every different sport until you find something that you enjoy. And again, you want to do some kind of aerobic stuff, keep your heart healthy, keep your joints moving around, whatever. And then you also want to do, I don't know if the joint thing is true, whatever. You know what I mean? Like keep yourself moving, flowing, and then you also want to do resistance training. By the way, sex can be both. You can get a lot of great cardio in with sex. You can get all kinds of strength training if you're holding someone up or you're holding on to someone. You can get some good. Have you ever gotten a strain from holding someone up because you're fucking? People don't talk about that. You also sometimes you need to have protein shakes after fucking. If you're having a good fucking session, and like I said, you're holding someone up, you're in like all kinds of positions. I would forget for a long time. You're just like, now we just go to sleep. You might need some protein to rebuild those muscles. Anyway, so you're gonna add stuff and then you're gonna adjust. And by adjust, I mean, now that you've added, a lot of the adjusting is probably going to have happened already, but you might still go, all right, I still want to lose some more fat. I still am doing some unhealthy things. So we're going to start adjusting. One adjusting thing that you can do really easily, and you can do this in the beginning too, you don't have to wait until you've already added everything. One really great adjustment is to start putting healthy snacks in your environment. So like I said, when you go to the store, you want to buy a bunch of healthful things and then stock them around. I love RX bars. I keep mentioning them, so I thought I would show them. There's something about these. Not everybody loves these. For some people, they're too chewy or something, but you know, it's egg whites, almonds, cashews, dates. If you read the back of it, dates, egg whites, cashews, almonds, chocolate, cocoa, natural flavors, sea salt. Just, you know, you've got 12 grams of protein, 5 grams of fiber, you got 8 grams of fat, a little bit of calcium, 10% iron, 8% potassium. You know, nutritionally dense. It's so easy. You can take these anywhere. Also, I mean, I love the chocolate sea salt flavor personally. There's a bunch of other flavors. I don't really like the others much of the others at all. But I love this flavor, and it's 12 grams of protein. So I love these. Another little one you can do, there's this Keys, I don't know if that's how we pronounce it, Kize bar. I found this recently. I really love them. I love that their chocolate sea salt is really good. It only has 7 grams of protein in that one, but in the chocolate peanut butter one, it has 9 grams of protein. It's a little bit more indulgent, you know, because these both have 210 calories, but these have a little bit more fat and a little bit less fiber and protein. 2 grams of fiber, 9 grams of protein. Still has a little bit of calcium, iron, potassium, but not as much. But this tastes just like a peanut butter cup situation. I mean, it's what a chocolate peanut butter cup, chip, whatever. They're tasty. And so if you want, sometimes I'll have this as a little dessert or a little treat. I love this with a glass of walnut milk. It's just, to me, it's like having a Reese's peanut butter cup, except it's a lot better for you. Again, the ingredients are peanut butter, honey, egg whites, chocolate chips, gluten-free rolled oats, and dates. Whole foods, minimal processed stuff, but, you know, and I think these would technically be considered processed. I don't know, but, you know, so I'm not saying you only have to eat a handful of nuts and dried berries. You can get yourself these convenience foods, but there are convenience foods like these. You can stock these. I always have some in my car, on my comedy bags. You can put them at the office. You find stuff that you know you're going to want to eat. If you only stock stuff that's like healthy, it's like healthful food, but that you don't like that much, then you're going to be like, I'll just go to the drive-thru. But stock yourself stuff, you know, find yourself stuff that is healthy for you, that you also really enjoy eating, so that you're like, ooh, I'm hungry. Okay, I'm going to have this little RX bar. This is 12 grams of protein. These are healthy things. These are whole foods. Someone has smushed into a bar for me, and that is just, it's gonna save you so much, because we do this all the time. It's crazy how much we're all adults, but we just don't plan ahead. Oh, I need a tampon. Oh, I don't have any water. Oh, I don't have any food. You gotta bring water. You gotta bring period stuff if you have that. You gotta bring healthy, wholesome, tasty foods so that you don't make bad decisions in the moment, so you don't get too busy. The other adjustments that you want to make, and again, this is whether you're on Ozempic or not, because Ozempic, if you do it and you just eat less, if you just eat less but you're still eating junk food, that's when you lose all the muscle. And that's when, you know, okay, you get off the drug, you gain all that weight back and maybe more, because now you have less muscle, so you're burning fewer calories, your metabolic rate is slower, so now you're gonna get fatter than ever because you didn't build any good habits. You didn't take that Western pill and utilize it for what it's worth, which is to go, now I have the willpower to do the healthy things. You know, plenty of people are doing this where they have a diet full of fake sugar, processed foods, you know, not enough protein, refined carbs, fruit juice, alcohol, and they just have less of it. So take the opportunity, if you're taking Ozempic, and take the opportunity if you're just doing it yourself, to start making those adjustments. Again, after you've added, now we adjust. And so you go, alcohol, it's really ruinous for your diet. It can be fun. I still drink alcohol sometimes, but just not that often. Because the more you drink alcohol, you know, you're getting these empty calories, and then your body starts wanting junk food afterwards. Or it also interrupts your sleep. If you drink, even one drink can fuck up your sleep, and sleep is so important to me. You know, the older I get, the more I just care about my energy more than anything else. And so I still do trade-offs sometimes, and I go, you know what? Tonight is a 2 glass of wine day, or tonight I'm gonna go have some tequila and I'm gonna go dancing. I just don't do it that often. It's a treat. You want to enjoy everything in moderation if at all possible. Fruit juice is one of those things that is just, you know, you're stripping away all the fiber and whatnot, and so you're just getting fructose, and that's sugar. And so if you just have a bunch of juice, then it's still just a bunch of sugar. It's an insulin spike. It's going to probably wind up getting converted to fat unless you're super physically active. These are all great things. If you're gonna go run a bunch, if you are about to work out, you need carbohydrates to fuel your workout. So, yeah, and sometimes you need quick carbohydrates. You don't want to have a bunch of brown rice before you run a marathon. So all of these things can be used. I hate ever thinking like, oh, I never get to have something again. I never get to have cheesecake or cookies or whatever again. I want you to get to enjoy that, but you want to do it either in moderation and/or because you go, okay, I'm going to run today, so I get to have this big glass of juice. Maybe I live in Austin. I'm going to go to Juice Land and get, the jalapeno. What, I forget. I used to work at Juice Land, but extra jalapeno. It's a pun. Extra jalapeno. It's a dumb pun. Anyway, I'm gonna go get that, and even though I know it's not always really ideal to have a ton of fruits pressed into a sugar bomb, but I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna go for a run. Great. I'm gonna have a donut, and then I'm gonna go for a run a little bit after. Great, do that. But especially if you don't have time to do a lot of exercise, today's maybe an off exercise day, you need to focus so much on getting that protein and those vegetables that you're not gonna have as much space to use for all of these things. Of course, if you're really fat, then you still have some room that you can use for that and still be losing weight for a while. But this is for once you're at the place where you're trying to really lose weight, once you're trying to really lose fat, then you gotta minimize, again, take out the fake sugar, in my opinion, but stuff that's high sugar, processed, refined sugar, fruit juice, alcohol, those kinds of things. Also, if you're on Ozempic and you're eating very little, and whatever Ozempic does to you, there's something where people are having a lot of digestion distress. Well, when you're not eating as much and things are kind of slowing down in there, then when you're putting that junk food in there, it's harder for it to deal with that. So that's when people are having those GI issues, is because they're eating junk food and your body is just slowing down all kinds of processes. And so that's gonna really be hard on your system. And Ozempic makes it easier to not have alcohol anyway, so that's something that you should really just minimize. And that's the thing, our Western environment steers us toward all kinds of cheap, quick sources of dopamine. That's, junk food, that's alcohol, that's smoking cigarettes, that's gambling, that's cocaine and speed. And Ozempic can help you to not be as attracted to those things, but you still are attracted on Ozempic to sex. You're still attracted to, working toward your long-term goals and achieve. And this is from what I've heard. This is from the science that I've looked into, and that's amazing. That makes these things actually a miracle drug. And I am coming down on the side, until further notice, I am coming down on the side of, yay, these drugs are actually awesome. We have Western medicine to combat Western environmental influences. Western environmental influences are so pernicious that, yeah, we might need a Western pill to help us to work through that. Same way, I don't want to tell anyone you shouldn't take Prozac if you need some help getting over your OCD or your depression. Again, you can do, if you're doing Prozac for depression, then you want to go, okay, if that helps you get yourself off the couch and start getting sunlight and exercise and healthy food and pursuing, hobbies and careers that you care about and spending time with loved ones, great. But do all of those things, make sure you're doing all the healthy things that help make you happy, then you can wean yourself off of your depression drug, whatever your depression drug is. Because a lot of these depression drugs will hurt your sex life or whatever else, make you fatter. I was going to talk about my latest journey toward building muscle, but this has gone on much longer than I meant it to, so we're going to talk about that on another date. Okay, this all being said, if your gut biome, if your taste buds are all in a really bad place right now, then you might need Ozempic or one of the others. And sometimes I think a lot of us can have a moral sense that those things are sort of cheating, or it's too easy, it's wrong somehow. And I understand that. I have sort of that gut reaction as well, of that wariness of, for me, it's a wariness of Western medicine, quick fix kind of stuff. But from all the research that I've done, it's not inherently bad to utilize Ozempic and the others to help you with this. You know, sometimes you need Western medicine because you live in a Western lifestyle. If we all were bush people who were hunting and gathering, this would never be an issue. But because we are beset by cues and advertising and cheap resources that go, hey, you just eat some junk food, eat some, then you might need to take a pill to help you with this, because what we want is to get to the place where your gut, where your mind-body system love healthy foods and are regulated. But if you're so dysregulated that you just cannot even get yourself to drink water. I know a lot of people are like, well, I hate water. Like, I can only drink it if I put some of that, fake sugar flavor stuff in it. I want to shake you and go, just be an adult and drink water. Just force yourself to do it for a day or 3 days, whatever, and then your gut will take over from there and it won't be so hard. But I know it's not that easy for people, and everyone has a different life, and you might have 2 jobs and 5 kids for all I know. I don't know. There could be all kinds of things going on. You may have so little money that it's so hard to get yourself out of that cycle, and so the only pleasure you can get is that drive. I don't know where you're at with that. Of course, if that's the case, it can also be expensive to get these drugs. But what I can say is, to me, using Ozempic to help you with this should be thought of the same way using Prozac should be thought of to help with OCD or depression. Where for me, I was diagnosed with OCD as a teenager and was put on Prozac or fluoxetine to help me with that. And what that did is basically, as I understand it, with obsessive compulsive disorder, you basically don't have as much serotonin happening, and so when the obsession will happen, your serotonin has reached a little bit of a trough, and then you want to do the compulsions in order to get yourself a little bit up, like get your serotonin a little bit up, but if you do it, then you keep, I think it's called down-regulating. I always forget which one's up-regulating or down-regulating. But basically, you keep getting addicted more and more to acting out those compulsions in order to get a tiny little bit of serotonin, but then it gets lower and lower. And so what the Prozac can do, so you're going to be on this kind of thing. But if you take the Prozac, you'll still be on that, but it'll be higher, so that when you hit those troughs of serotonin, the trough is not as low as it was before you were on the Prozac. And so you still have to white knuckle force yourself to not do the compulsion, but your knuckles won't be so white because it won't be as low. And so you still have to do this kind of behavioral therapy, these behavioral adjustments, modifications on yourself to change your habits. So for me, I had a lot of things that I would do with each hand and would look at things, and I would have to move the page back and forth and all kinds of stuff like that I could basically force myself not to do. It was really hard, but I could basically force myself not to do it. But what I really couldn't handle was that I had to pray constantly, and there were these formulas that I had to do, and there were things I had to say over and over again, and the numbers were crazy, and I won't get into it. But with the Prozac, it was still hard, but it was doable. But I still had to I couldn't just be like, all right, well, I'll just give in to whatever obsessions I have. I'll just do the compulsions, but it just won't be as bad because I'll be on Prozac, so it won't be as much. If I had done that, then that might have been okay, more livable. But then I would have to keep taking more and more Prozac over time, and I would never get to the root of the problem. So the Prozac allows you to change your behavior such that eventually you can wean yourself off of the Prozac and still have your behaviors changed so that you're not becoming addicted to your compulsions. The same thing is true with these kind of changes that you need to make if you're going to be taking Ozempic. And they're the same changes you want to make regardless of whether you're taking the Ozempic. But if you're in such a state that you just can't and you need to take the Ozempic, okay, take it. If you can take it, take it. I would highly recommend trying to take as low a dose as possible. There are so many reasons for that, and I think 2.5 something is the kind of standard minimum dose, and there are certain kinds of doctors like holistic compounding pharmacy. I don't know how that works, but I've heard there are certain kinds of people who can help you take smaller doses than that, like a micro dose or some low dose anyway. Ask your doctor about that, trying to take as low a dose as possible, because you want to take the smallest dose you could possibly take to get yourself to make these changes. There are a lot of gastrointestinal issues that can happen with the higher doses, all kinds of dysregulating stuff. And, it's just that kind of Western impulse to like get thin fast. And it's not great. Then you're going to have to take more and more over time. Also, there's something that happens with like your receptor sensitivity, where the more you take, the longer you take, or the longer you take this stuff, the more you'll have to take. So just like any drug, you really got to take tolerance breaks. Sometimes, do kind of a cycling thing where you take 2 to 4 weeks off of this stuff and then get back on it, and possibly with even a smaller dose than you were before. You want to think of it as trying to minimize how much of this stuff that you take. I mean, one of the things is, if you do calorie restriction, if that's your approach, whether that's because you're dieting or because you're just like, I'm gonna take Ozempic, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I'm not obsessed with food, I just kind of eat, a little bit and then I'm done. Calorie restriction can be really bad in terms of how much muscle you're gonna lose. You need to make sure you're getting lots of protein. You can be in starvation mode. You might have heard of that, where I'm supposed to be funny sometimes. I'll try to add that in. You can be in starvation mode, which is like your body learns, oh, there's no food around, so you better hold on to the food that we've got. Fat stores. It's a time of famine. Okay, time to slow down how much we're using and keep that fat there so we can live. So you don't want to go into starvation mode. That will make it very hard to lose weight. That's the pitfall a lot of people do when they're trying to diet in these kinds of sad ways that we have been suggested to people in this culture, like just calories in, calories out, just don't take as many calories in. But that's just such a complicated thing, and your body chemistry, it's very hard to figure out how many calories you are burning, and when you starve yourself, then you stop burning as many calories. So you might be taking in 400 fewer calories than you were before, but if your metabolism suppresses itself, then you might be burning 500 calories fewer than you were before, so you're actually going to gain weight because you're on this weird restriction thing. So you don't want to go into starvation mode. You don't want to lose more muscle than you have to. Also, I've heard that calorie restriction can lead to some kind of bile sludge happening, pancreatitis, all kinds of other things. Calorie restriction is not healthy. You don't want to be doing that. And again, this goes back to my adding thing. You want to add water, you want to add vegetables, you want to add protein. You need to make sure you are having as much protein as you need, which is something like, if you're a pound person, then you want to have almost as much protein as pounds you weigh, something like that. So if I weigh 135 pounds, and I really don't know, but it's something like that, then I really want to have something like 105 to 140 grams of protein a day, especially because I work out a lot. And you want to be on the higher end of that if you're working out a lot, and you should be working out. That's another thing you want to add. You want to add water, vegetables, protein, and exercise, especially resistance training. Yes, it is much better to get a little bit of walking in a day than nothing, and you need to be doing some walking, some aerobics, some movement, whether that's 3 little walks a day, where you take a morning, afternoon, and night, maybe with your dog, whether that's a little walk a day, plus dancing several times a week, and 1 yoga class, great. Make sure you're doing some aerobic stuff. Make sure you're moving. Some running would be awesome for you, if at all possible. Trail running, ideally. But you also really want to be doing some resistance training, whether that's lifting weights, rock climbing, some kind of martial arts. It could be even like tennis or basketball. Those are good for, building muscles. You want to do stuff that is going to build muscle. Building muscle burns more calories. The more muscle you have, the higher your metabolic rate is, which is, again, why we're throwing away the scale, because and there's a scale at the gym where the doctors, you'll still weigh yourself every now and then and get some idea, but you don't need a scale at home. Because muscle weighs more than fat, you want muscle. The more muscle you have, the better all of this stuff is going to be, and the better your life is going to be, the better you're going to look, and here's a great way to think about the folly of thinking of the number you want to be, is like, look at these people who weigh the same amount, but look completely different. You can be, my friend was just telling me she's like 155 pounds, but she has muscle and she's curvy, whatever. And then her mom is like 165 pounds, a little bit more, but not much. She's been on Ozempic, but she's like a box and she doesn't have any muscle. So let's add in, again, we're adding water, vegetables, protein. And then after water, vegetable, and protein diet-wise, you can also think of adding nutritionally dense food, whether that's fruits, nuts, seeds, just, whatever. You can look at the packaged stuff. Hopefully we're not going to be doing as much processed stuff, but still, if you're looking, you can say, so maybe brown rice, could be white. I like white rice too, though, just mix it up. Beans, all kinds of things where you go, there's vitamins, there's nutrients, there's fat, protein, and fiber. All of those, and if it's going to be fat, you just want to make sure it's natural sources. Saturated can be okay, avocados, a lot of saturated fat. You just want to make sure, and you don't want to be eating 5 avocados a day. You don't want to be eating a ton of, non-lean meat, especially, ideally you're getting, but fish, omega-3s, eggs, lots of healthy, wonderful food, fats. Some of them are saturated, you just want healthy fats. Fat, protein, and fiber all slows the absorption of carbohydrates, of sugars, and that helps your insulin response. It helps you to stay sated longer. So all of these things are sending signals from in your mind-body system to not go cookies, snacks, diet soda. You're not thinking about it as much. I had no idea I could not be obsessed with food. I had no idea until I stopped dieting that I could live my life and not be constantly consumed by, I want to be eating something right now. Another thing that I can't remember who said this, but someone said something about, like, I think it was because they say, like, imagine eating a steak, and if that doesn't sound good, then you're not hungry. I don't know if that's even the best advice, although it's something to maybe experiment with a little. But what I started doing at some point was going, all right, I feel like I want to eat something. Sometimes you feel like you want to eat something, but not like starving, but you think you're a little hungry. You feel like you want to eat something, but you're like, I don't know if this is an emotional thing or not. But your body is always trying to tell you what it needs. So a lot of times, you probably, even if you're not like hungry, your body may really want something. So what I'll do, and I stock my home with healthful foods, which is another thing, is you can do that, right? In the moment, it can be hard if you have a bunch of junk food everywhere to resist it. But when you're at the store, you can go, ooh, okay, let me mostly buy healthful foods and a few little treats. So then if I'm looking around, I'll go, okay, do I want a piece of fruit? Does that sound good? Okay, if not, I'll go maybe a handful of nuts. Does that sound good? No. Does one of my little protein vegan yogurts sound good? Does an RX bar sound good? You think about it. You go, how does that feel? Do I feel like I want to eat this? Maybe I feel like I just want a little seaweed snack because I just want a little salt and a little snacky poo. Maybe you need iodine. Anyway, it's, kind of meditate, reflect on the food. You look at a food and go, is that what I want? Because maybe it's vegetable, maybe you need a little protein, maybe you need a little fat, maybe you need salt. And you're like, I want those potato chips. You can also think, maybe I can have a little broth. There's all kinds of things like that. Okay, you also need sunlight. And so that's a good thing about these walks Sunlight is so good for you. Vitamin D is great. If you can get a good little supplement, that is useful as well. Sometimes it's, ideal to have some of both, depending on what environment, what time of the year. Sunlight is so good for your health. It's so good for your happiness. It's so good for your immunity. It's really great for your circadian rhythms and, your energy levels and your sleep at night. If you can get 3 little walks a day or 3 sun salutation moments, that's so good. First thing when you wake up, get some of that sunlight into you. And then if you can take another little walk kind of at midday, if you can take another little walk in that golden hour, sunset time, it's gonna really help your circadian rhythms. I, as a comedian, don't get to live the life. Like if I could, and when I've had the chance, I've done this, I would wake up at first light, and then I will go to bed, go to sleep shortly after the sun sets. Love that. But I have to be up late for comedy, so I can't do this exactly as I would like, but I still try as soon as I get out of bed in the morning to go hit the sunlight. Sometimes that's a walk, sometimes it's just out on my balcony, sometimes I'll walk downstairs where I can bathe in the sunlight and literally do a few sun salutations. Even like the ghetto ones where, I don't know what ghetto, but like the short one where you're not even doing the like chaturanga thing, the up dog. Sometimes I'm just on concrete but just kind of some up and down, whatever. Just do that. It clears something away that Andrew Huberman told me once, and I don't remember, but it helps. And sleeping wise, I didn't learn this until I started dating my current girlfriend, and I don't know why I didn't, because sleep has been so hard for me, but she got me wearing earplugs and an eye mask, and it has been a game changer. It is very hard for me to sleep. I am a very restless person, and the tiniest little sound or light will wake me up, and it has been so helpful to put in those earplugs and have the face mask. Sunlight is so good for you. It's what's the saying? Sunlight is the best disinfectant, and a lot of times we use that as a metaphor for transparency and like government institutions or something, but it's also literally true. And hospitals used to be optimized for sunlight, and people used to be like, make sure they get out in the sun, send her to the countryside and get her some sunlight. We all understood that until nowadays, and I don't know with the COVID stuff when they wanted us to all be staying at home, ordering food in and Amazon packages and things. I don't know if there's really a conspiracy to keep us all as unhealthy and addicted and fucked up and dying as possible, or if it's just a sort of hubristic incompetence of our country. Our country's falling apart. Like, most people are bad at their jobs. You're probably bad at your job, right? So I don't know. I think Anthony Fauci's probably a bad person, but I don't know. Maybe it's wrong. I know we're all in our different bubbles of what we consume, but I know that sunlight is really good for you, and it's absolutely insane that people were discouraged from perfectly safe activities like going outside and getting exercise and sunlight when that's what you really need to have a healthy immune system in any situation, much less when there is a pandemic going around.